All right, good early morning. Let's get into this. So, still down days yesterday. So, a negative in the sense that both CONY and MSTY went down along with BTC and a fair amount of things. I did see some indications in some NASDAQ stocks that did move up. So, maybe this bearish bent at the moment is not entirely justified. The other positive, in particular on CONY, let's talk about the numbers. So let's start with coin. Closed at 218.83, down 2.05%. And we actually went down slightly more. In CONY, we went down 2.5 to 23.36. Now here's the positive. So intraday, coin traded as low as 205. Came back, closed at 218, still down 2%, but significantly higher than what it had sold off. Additionally, in after hours, last I checked, it was around 222 or 223. So similar for MSTY, it didn't recover as much during the day from its low, but in after hours, it's up more than CONY percentage-wise, or coin. All right, let's jump in this. So there were some trades here, but I only saw them in the total holdings. I didn't get the prices, but I was able to estimate. So you see on their cash, so no trades in individual stocks. The only trades were 690 contracts they added to their synthetic. So that put, I'll show you that in a minute, that put a little over 7 million, and then their shares went up significantly in CONY. So they got an additional 14 million, right? 7 of it was generated by putting the synthetic on, and I'll show you what I mean with that. But no additional weeklies. So let's take a look at the active tab. So here's where we went down on to 218, we went down to 2336. Implied volatility went from 95 to 98. So on our weeklies, the count didn't go up, but let's jump over to our 260s. So this is where I estimated the price, but honestly, it was only between $8 and $12, and between like 48 and 54, the trading prices. So I picked a couple middle prices. I'll adjust them slightly when I finally get that number, but it's not going to vary much. So that put 7.4 million in our pockets, because we're talking about a 260, right? And that's far out of the money relative to where we're trading, right? This one needs to get updated. So that picked up the 18 number. Yeah, 218.83. Okay. So we're 15% down from this. So when you sell calls that far out, look at when we sold them. The prices were pretty close, right? I'm guessing we were probably 251, 252. So we're pretty close to 260. So we got more money for the put because the call wasn't up to the 260 level, right? So that skews. So we picked up 4.5 million in the difference. This time we picked up 3.8 million. Sorry. We picked up 2.9 million, but it brought our synthetic total up to 7.4. So I should have clarified that. So we put about 2.9 million in our pocket, and then the shares that came in. However, look at this. When all is said and done, we'll talk about MSTY, who's got a bigger problem because they're coming on 419. At least here, we have till 517. So right now, if they had to close out this position because they added 690 contracts, they'd have to spend 70 million, right? That's a little scary. But again, I'm reasonably comfortable in where we're going. Let's see if this bounce sustains. Because looking at the Bitcoin chart, and looking at technical analysis, we kind of held support right at the edge of support in 63,000 in BTC dollars per coin. If that drops, then 52 will be like a magnet, right? And you really don't want to drop 8 more percent, right? Or actually, what would that be? That would be closer to a 15%, right? If you're at 63 and you go to 52, yeah, that's 20%. So it wouldn't all be at once, but you really don't want to see that because that'll really hurt these funds short term. I'm still bullish long term. I mean, I see anywhere from 100 to 150,000. Probably realistic that we'll see 100,000 in BTC this year, which is going to get these things charging again. It's just do we suffer for a month or so? Let's see. So far things are looking decent here. Let's see if there's anything else in April. I showed you the cash, no trades. We talked about the active. So look at this now. The good news is we're going to make all of our money with 23, 26, and 20%, right? We haven't put anything new on. They used the money for synthetics. Maybe they didn't feel they had enough money to add anything in here that would have given them value. Not sure exactly. Sometimes they match and do 690 contracts, right? But they didn't. So again, they didn't post any of the trades. I was just able to get the total holdings and look at it, and the only thing that got added was the 260 synthetic count by 690, right? So that was pretty easy to take a price and run with it. All right, so remember, in order to reduce this, each $10 gain in the underlying, right? So we're trading at 218. So if we go to 228 and close the day there, we've taken almost 29 million off. I think that's a little high because the numbers keep changing slightly. But clearly, if we were to do that 3 days in a row or have one big day, a pullback, another big day, if we can get back in just the 240 range, right? That will get this down to a very tolerable number, 10, 12 million, right? So what you want is movement here. I don't think it'll hurt. Let's see what that would do to our actives. Yeah, I mean we're at we can run to 260 and not even have a problem. 270, 277. So we have clear sailing on the weeklies. So if they were to write a new weekly, it probably would be around 230 or something, right? And they still may this week if anybody else buys in. But this negativity surrounding, the Bitcoin movement down may have scared people off. But today it didn't. Like I said, let's look on the holdings. Here we go. Here's our 475,000 shares, guys. So we went up. Sorry, sometimes when you know this stuff so well, you run over here and you talk about something and then you leave something else off. Okay, so fair price value is 23.46. We're actually selling for a discount at 23.36. So that's a pretty significant move from 16,050 shares yesterday to 16,525,000. So CONY between the two is certainly doing a lot better. So we sum up things here, all the cash are together. Here's our 70 million, you can see it, right? We got a 91 million deficit on our puts and only 21 million value in our calls, right? So this can easily get reduced. As I said, if we trade up $10, $20, we'll take away, 40, 45 million of that 70 million. And remember, that's only on a weekly basis. We have a long time to worry about this playing out longer. It's just you don't like seeing it there, right? But if they continue to write at this level, even at 220, 230, 240 on coin, they're going to continue to collect money. And then if they run into May, and remember, I forgot to tell you guys, there's a Chinese ETF coming out on 419. And I think there's some other Asian ones. So that should allow some, investments into BTC coming in Asia. And if anybody knows, there's tremendous interest. Every time I've met somebody in their 20s, 30s, even into their 40s, the young generation in Asia are just really trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, a lot of that stuff, right? So I see that ETF over there really helping the momentum. All right. Because the halving really doesn't happen till 419, 420, and then most of the pickup traditionally has been 2 to 3 weeks in before that really gets going. So hopefully we go out maybe 5 weeks in MSTY, and we'll talk about that one. All right, let's look at the payments tab. So I tried to sum this up, right? So we picked up some more money on synthetic. So let's take a look at where we are. We've got 88 cents in the short call, right? So we had a 50 million carry forward because we only paid 279 before. We had a NAV reserve of $3.61, so that's 50 million. Here's our 16.5 million shares. So altogether, as we stand, and the reason that 70 million isn't as big a deal is there's a lot of time involved in that, right? So if they continue to make money on these weeklies, which there's no doubt, but that's already sort of accounted for here. So I don't see us losing any money this week at all in the weeklies. I'd just like to see us move up a little bit and gain on the on that 70 million deficit. So I sort of laid it out here. This says concern is we have almost 59. Well, guys, that's 70 now, right? With the down day. But based on pre-market and just kind of what I'm sensing in the market, I don't see another down day. It wouldn't surprise me for us to be in the 220s or 230s from closing at 218.83. Let's see. So we'll have to buy the put back for 50 million. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's what, but again, we won't buy that back until the week before May 17. So non-issue. It's just that I'm used to putting this in for MSTY, and I want to show you guys in CONY, but it's nowhere near the same concern. So our current month is showing us 32 million, right? And we've got this 50. So the way this thing is going, I could easily see it paying $2+. So those of you that may fear we're going to have a $1 or something, it's not justified based on what I see at this point. It's early, right? So I see a 2 to 275 range. Depends on what they do next week and weeklies. I mean, if this thing just keeps on going down, then there's some concern. You don't want to see 200, 195 in coin and see $100 million liability, right? So you got some directional sympathy that happens, but that's kind of it on CONY. Generally pretty positive. Let's move over to MSTY, and here's what I've got on MSTY. So there were no trades in MSTY, and let's jump over here for a second, and no volume in shares, right? I mean, you might have thought that people would sell out. Remember, I think we picked up 200,000 yesterday, right? So we were flat, and remember, there's obviously people selling and people buying, but you get a net flat. And we had 200,000 join before because those are the people saying, oh, I want in on that $4, paying MSTY fund, and it's on sale. Yes, it's on sale. So let's get back to that tab and take a look. All right. So we were down, again, worse than CONY, right? We were down 6.13 in the underlying. So Mr. closed at 1254. It had traded around 1208. It's just if you look from the high of the day at the open and the low, you know, CONY recovered 90% of what it lost, right? So it was only down 2%. So the lows are much lower. You know, in MSTY, it only came about halfway back, right? I don't remember the numbers, but let's say it opened at 1315 or 1310. It traded down to 1198, 1206. I don't have it in front of me right now, and came back to 1254. So, and again, similar to coin and CONY, we were beat a little worse, right? Just a hair, right? 613 to 621. Well, why? Because we'd already gained most of the money to be made in our calls that we wrote, right? And we didn't add any money. No new money came in by people buying, so we didn't have to put on any new positions. So we're sitting here at 31.11, right? So I think the dip buyers bought in here, and now the fear trade is involved, right? So people are going, you know, I had somebody ask me in the comments if I thought this was going below 20. And when I first read it, I assumed they meant CONY and Farius. One of my subscribers, so shout out to you. Always appreciate questions and comments, guys, so throw them out there if you have them. No worries. Yeah, there's fear, right? But a Warren Buffett quote is, I'm buying, you know, when there's fear takes over, and I'm selling when euphoria takes over, right? So the real greed, everybody piles in when it's $42 to $45, and you know it's going to pay a $4, and now people are remembering that. So I'm not big on shifting the funds around. Somebody else in the comments told me that they sold 1,000 shares of MSTY and jumped and bought 1,000 shares of ULTI. Now, just FYI for anybody, ULTI's not a bad fund. It's a completely different fund. It's a fund that's got 30 stocks, between 15 and 30. I didn't count them, but they pick high volatility, and believe it or not, MSTY's in there, CONY's in there, there's a couple of big miners in there. So it's a variety of companies. It's got SMCI, which I like a lot. So that one, but if you look at it, the NAV was $20. It's been out a month or so, maybe a month and a half, similar to MSTY. And you know, dividend is middle of the month. So the Magnificent Seven and the Fund of Funds, YMAX and YMAG, and then ULTI, they all pay middle of the month, right? And they have a slightly higher fee than all of the single stocks. So FYI for you guys that didn't know about them. So one added benefit is ULTI has a wide variety, right? But to me, they've already changed up 30% of the funds that they pick. They constantly, so if they pick a fund, or sorry, if they pick a stock, and they write synthetics and they write, you know, naked calls and do various things across these, you know, I think it's 18 right now, but they say they plan 15 to 30. And it's high flying or high volatility companies, and there's a lot of crypto in there. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting because now you're going into a fund that was $20 at $16. Maybe you think it's on sale, but it doesn't have as good a track record. And he was able to pick up that dividend, which he didn't say in the comments. I'm just sharing with you guys, right? So maybe some people are jumping around going, hey, his bet is if you sold MSTY, it's going a lot lower, right? We don't know yet, right? We really, really don't know yet, but let's take a look. All right, so here's our synthetic as of yesterday. And we went from 22 million, like 22.8 to 28.2, right? Because we continued down. We went from 1335 down to 1254. But again, my gut right now says that we're going to bounce. It just, the technicals look like we're due for a bounce. Can I tell you that the fear is over and it's only up from here? I wish I could. The charts are going to tell us, right? So the issue becomes here with these days, we're still looking at a $28 million hit. So I wrote down here, if we rise up close to 1700, that gets harder and harder and harder. We got 3 trading days, right? But each 100-point rise, give or take, is $6+ million of liability removal. So we would have to go 400 points and get to 1654, and we would have a very 3, 4, 5 million. I haven't done the math. You really at that number, you take about 45 times 632. I guess I could do it up here. Equals 45 times 632 times 100. Oh, maybe I didn't. I did something wrong there. Oh, it might only be, yeah, 2.8 million. Okay. I just had small text in that. Yeah, that probably gets us to a $3 million. Now that's a lot. Do I think we're going to gain 300 points? No, but I'd love to see us at 1400, right? At a much more reasonable number. 1400 would give us, maybe an $18 million loss or $17 million loss. So we really don't want any, and I'd love to see it be great, but I'm trying to be realistic, right? Because we've pretty much captured, when we look in here, these numbers are pretty captured, right? The 1 million, the 1.9. So we've only got about 2.3 million that we've already been paid that we'll get to keep, right? The odds are there's no way that we're going to hit a 1635 probably. And even if we did, we'd love it, right? Because that would wipe out 90% of the synthetic. And you wouldn't even break even until 1691, which would just be so awesome. Who cares about the 123,000 when you're wiping, the hundreds and hundreds of contracts that are involved in the synthetic, right? 632. All right, let's look at active. Whoops, I didn't do this one either. So let's take that one. 1254. Okay, now I know where they are that I linked to in my other sheet. Okay, so I think this was even. Also, I don't know that, yeah, maybe this went down 2 points. But I did come in and update the arrows. I remember doing that. Okay, so as it stands, we're so far out of the money that these are not much of an issue. However, in a really good scenario for us, we would move up 250 points, right? And 250 points that put us right here. So at 65 contracts, we got good money for those. Let's go over to April. 175,000, right? And we got $27. So just going to that point would really help us. And all it might do is, if we went to 1532, is wipe out 175,000. But it would put millions back in our pocket on the synthetic. Okay, guys, I like to just have you understand those because I think it's important. And if I'm not still getting it across, let me know in the comments, and we'll continue on that. All right, let's go in the holdings. So here's where that sets. There's the 28 million, guys, right? You can see it plain as day. You got a $445 deficit because. And so every time they add, well, they won't be doing that anymore. They're not going to write anymore with 2 days left. It's silly. Hand me money here and buy it back over here. But look at these. When I was talking about these, look at their values already. So the 540 contracts they rewrote at 1670, we can go back and look at what we paid for them. But they're starting to be worthless, right? Which is exactly what we want, but we didn't want it to be this bad, right? So there's still a little bit left here because these are 1505s, right? There's still $6. But again, 65 contracts isn't anywhere up here. This is the amount of money that we could still collect. So what do we got? Another 120,000? That's nothing compared to our 28 million deficit that we've got 3 trading days on. Okay, guys, I hope that helps. Let's take a look at the payment. So again, I wrote this all out, right? We've got an 8 million carry forward in our first month, right? Or sorry, we got 8 million that we've made this month. Because remember, we're writing these puts where we're way underwater along with a call and adding a synthetic, and we get a bunch of money in the fund, but reality, we don't get to keep that money unless we're at 1700, right? So we're not, and we're not even close to it. So hence, we got this $28 million loss that's going to have to be dealt with on Friday. All right, so I said each $100 gain, which I said in the other page for you, 6 million with 3 trading days, right? So I just went down here and said, okay, let's use up this credit. Let's use all the money that we had left over. Let's take the money we've got, and let's assume the worst is it stays right here at 1245 and we got this $28 million loss. Because remember, every $100 gain in MSTY, that could go to 22, 16, etc., etc. It could get a lot better. But that gives us a 13.2 million loss for the month. Well, the fund might still choose to pay out a portion of this, right? This short call per share. And who knows what we're going to do? We got 2 more weeks, right? So if they roll and we start, we stay at a level and we keep making weeklies, we can dig ourselves out of a hole. But I'm not fearful we're going to get no payment. I just think that the worst case scenario, we might get $1, right? That things are just really ugly. So let's hope for better than that. So give me your feedback, your comments, questions, tell your friends. The channel is growing, but I want to do more and I want to grow more. So let me know. I'm thinking about possibly covering Ulti. It's just they have so many positions, 18, 19 stocks that they put these all on, that I might just do a summary or something. Okay, guys, let's hope for a good day. The pre-markets look decent. It's really early, but they look decent in both MSTY and CONY. Okay, that's it for now. Have a great day ahead. And again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for fun and education. See ya.